Welcome everybody. Welcome to 10-4, powered by Wow. And today, Robin's out right at the moment, but she misses everybody and she sends the regards. So we'll see her next time when she comes in. But I just wanted to say welcome everybody. And today's speaker we have Nancy Leve. So we're excited to hear about Nancy. So Nancy.
My name is Nancy Leve. My company is Video Journals Online. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I'm also going to talk about the basics of how if you wanted to do it yourself with a relative or a friend, how you would go about doing that. And I think you should do it with people that you love, because I think it's important to have. We all have a life story. And I think because Robin said last time she had received my email about Father's Day, and she said, wow, it made me feel sad because I wish I had that for my father. But really, because she knows that, she should be doing it for her husband so that her children don't have that same feeling. The first one is always the most important one to get done, because then you have, you can say, okay, we've got something. It's stored on a zip drive, and it's with all of our important papers and something in case something would happen. I mean, think of all those poor children when 9/11 happened. We don't always have a precursor to know that death is coming. So let me share my screen. So Video Journals Online, it's your life story memories. It's captured on video, which is different than it being in a book or a journal that you've written out, because it has the sound of your voice, and it's easy to do. It's affordable, and it's got a fast turnaround. So in 2 hours, you've handled something that's very important for your family and for future generations. Okay, so to do a synopsis of what it is, it's either a 1 hour or 2 hour Zoom call interview. It's the easiest and quickest way to tell your life story, better than written, because it captures your facial expressions and your tone of voice. And I've heard so many people talk to me about they have kept the last voicemail message of their mother because that's all they have of her voice. It's available internationally. If you have Wi-Fi, we can do it. I've interviewed somebody in South Africa, so that's not a problem, as long as they speak English. So we can add digital photos. So when they're talking about your parents, you can see a picture of what their parents look like. And then afterwards, the video is edited. It's stored on the cloud, and then you get a link, and you provide that link to family members and friends, and they can download the video to their computer. And always, for the person who's being interviewed, I recommend that they do put it on a jump drive and put it with their important papers, so that it's always something that will be found if something happens. So I wanted to show you a short clip of an example.
And the anesthesiologist come in, and I said to them, I said, listen, I said, I've never had surgery done before. I just want to let you know one thing. I said, I'm not into pain. The only pain I'm into is champagne. You understand what I'm saying? Oh yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're okay. Everything's going to be okay. We're just going to give you some medicine. You'll be okay. I said, well, one other thing. I heard that surgeons, they like to listen to music. He said, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking, really, is it kind of sedates them, kind of like puts them in the right focus? I said, yeah. So what does Dr. likes to listen to? Bach, Beethoven? No. I said, what? Led Zeppelin. I go, Led Zeppelin? I said, what's his favorite song? Stairway to Heaven. I said, I don't want to go to heaven. I just wanted to fix my hip. That's it. I don't care about that. He said, don't worry about it. You're in good hands. So I said, oh my God. The next thing I knew, boom, I was out. I was in the recovery room.
So he is a good storyteller, obviously. So why should you do this? We often make that statement. If I knew then what I know now, well, now's the time to share that wisdom so that your family members don't have to go through learning some hard lessons on their own. All of us have a very interesting life story. Think about the pandemic that we lived through. I know my grandmother lived through the last pandemic. I never asked her about it because I never thought there was a pandemic until we had one. We lived through the Vietnam War, 9/11. I learned computers on key punch cards, and now we all carry a computer around in our pockets. Remember payphones on all the corners? We'd have to get quarters to use payphones. There are so many things in our life that we've experienced that future generations, will never know anything about. I mean, you ask young people today, they can't even use a rotary phone because it doesn't make any sense to them. And the benefit to it is that it eliminates regret. All family members, when they lose someone they love, they always say, I wish I had captured their life story. I wish I had written down those stories. I wish I had asked more questions. So this way you eliminate that regret. So the first thing of importance, if you're doing it yourself, is what questions to ask. So you need to create a list of open-ended questions for the interview. Now, we all know the difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Obviously, you don't want to ask questions that have a yes or no answer. You want them to elaborate. So when I'm doing it, I send the interviewee a list of potential questions, and they can check off whether or not they want to talk about that or not. So, for example, let's talk about your parents. How did they meet? When and where were they married? Did they have a honeymoon? How would you describe their temperaments? Did either serve in the military? Who was the disciplinarian? Their careers, their aging, and their death. What was life like as a child? What was different about your childhood compared to children's today? Well, that's a whole hell of a lot. And did you fear airplanes or rodents or dogs or heights, or sort of pets did you have? I now have drilling going on above me. Can you hear that in my condo? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, so you want to put together a list of open-ended questions. That sort of helps you as you're going through the interview. Then you want to ask family members, are there specific stories that they want captured? And then you need to make sure that it's included in the interview, because you're the one that is directing what stories will be told. So in our family, there was a story that was told every Thanksgiving growing up, where the turkey would be on the table and all the stuff around it, big dinner, and my father would be handed a liverwurst sandwich. And the reason was because my mother was pregnant during one Thanksgiving, and she delivered earlier than was expected. And so she came home. In those days, you went home to stay with your mother. And everybody had Thanksgiving plans. So they all went off to Thanksgiving, and my mother had a liverwurst sandwich. So every year thereafter, my father had a liverwurst sandwich. So that would be a story that I would want my mother to include in her interview. So you're acting as the railroad track. You want to probe to get details, and you may know the story. If my mother was starting to talk about the liverwurst sandwich and be like, oh my God, I've heard that story every year for Thanksgiving. But no, future generations won't know the whole story. So you want to get it all the details that you can. The other thing I recommend for people who are doing an interview is to understand that sibling rivalry never dies. So therefore, if a mother talks about her wonderful son for 5 minutes and she talks about her wonderful daughter for 1 minute, they will notice. It's almost like they'll have a stop clock. And so then you're going to hit I always knew he was your favorite. So you want to keep those even paced. You can stop, take a pause and say, okay, let's add a little bit more about your son because you spent more time talking about your daughter. So you're going to record the interview via Zoom. Now, we all should know how to do this, obviously. You set up the meeting, you provide the link to the interviewee. And when the meeting starts, you hit record, which is at the bottom of the screen in that black thing at the bottom. And then it'll ask you where to store the recording. You want to record it on your computer or record it to the cloud. If you could record it to the cloud, you're just going to download it afterwards. And then verify the recording. So you want to make sure to look in that upper left-hand corner and see that green thing is clicked, because otherwise you get through the whole thing and you went, oh my God, it didn't record after all. That's horrible. So for the recording, it's important to have a Zoom Pro account, because if you have that free account, it's going to end the meeting after 40 minutes. But you can have a Zoom monthly account. It's $15.99 a month, and you get cloud storage to 5 gigabytes, and you have longer meetings other than 40 minutes, and you can cancel it at any time. So you could do it for 1 month and do your interviews and then cancel it. The most important thing really is good lighting. Well, good lighting and good sound. So people need to understand, if they're not used to doing Zoom, that the light source should be behind the computer screen. And then there's always better audio if they use a microphone rather than the computer sound. So it's going in the wrong direction. Okay. Now it comes to editing the video, and not everyone has good editing skills for video. So some of the editing programs are very complicated. I've found Descript to be a godsend. It makes it so easy. And you can get a paid plan for $19 a month, and there too, you can cancel it after 1 month or after 2 months before the renewed billing goes in. What it does, it transcribes the audio portion of the video. So when you upload a video, you get the video on the right side and you get the transcription on the left side of it. It does that automatically for you. You can, if you see this little star button here, you can click that and it'll say, they'll give you different options. So you can say, remove the filler words. Well, we all have a lot of filler words. You know, I've had some videos that were 2 hours that had 120 filler words in it. That's a lot of ums and ahs and etc. So what it does is it just identifies all the filler words for you, and then you say remove it, and it removes it from the audio. I mean, it removes it from the video, both audio and visual. You can say shorten word gaps. So if there are long pauses, you can say, okay, anything that has a pause of 1.3 seconds, bring it down to 1 second so that it moves along at a regular pace. So you edit the recorded video by editing the transcription. That's so just like a Word document. If you delete a sentence in the transcription, that section of the video is deleted. You can delete entire paragraphs, you can delete half the interview, and it is gone. You can correct the transcription for mistakes. So if someone says, I went somewhere, and the recording spells it, or the transcription has it spelled incorrectly, then you can go in and change the spelling of that in the transcription. And that's important if you're going to add captions. You want those captions to be correct. Then you can improve the sound quality with something called Studio Sound. So that's on this right-hand part of the video, and it says audio effects. You just turn on Studio Sound, and that will take rid of a lot of the background noises that may come up during the interview. Oh, the other important thing is turn off the cell phones. You know, you don't want people getting calls during the interview. So once you've changed the transcription and edited the video, which it does for you, then you're going to hit publish, And then you're going to say download, and it's going to download the edited video for you. Then you upload it to YouTube, and you say, I want it visibility to be unlisted, not private, unlisted. Unlisted means it will not be public, but you have a link that you can then share with anyone who needs to have that video, and they can download it. Again, I urge everybody to do it for everyone that you love in your family. An hour, 2 hours, but get something done, because then you know you have left a legacy for many generations. I had a woman contact me. I did this 25 years ago in person in a little studio here in South Florida. And many years later, I got a call from a woman. She said, Nancy, you don't know me, but you did my grandmother's video journal. And I just went to her celebration of life ceremony. And I did the eulogy, and I told them everything about my grandmother's life. And they all came up afterwards and said, how did you know so many details about your grandmother's life? And she said, that's why I wanted to call you, because it was because of you. So I know when I finish a video, there will be hundreds of people, many generations down the line, who will value this keepsake, even though they'll never meet me. That's quite rewarding. So how do we end any presentation? With the ask for the sale. So how can you help me? If you can make an introduction to any estate attorney, because estate attorneys are dealing with people who are already of the mindset that, yes, I have to leave an inheritance of some format to my children. Cancer care industries. So we have something here in South Florida called Gilda's Club, and it's a supportive organization for people who are dealing with cancer and their family members. Genealogists, which I have Merle to thank for that recommendation, because they too are dealing with clients who want to know the backstory and they want to document it. And why are they documenting it? For future generations. It's the same thing. It's family history. Senior independent living communities. I've had someone on a networking call say, my mother's in an assisted living and I know the executive director, and I will introduce you to her. And she and I had a conversation, and she said, send me a one-sheet description of your product, of your service, and I will email that out to all the family members of the residents in our community. The good thing about that was she had 75 residents in the community, and it was in New York. But the parent company had 300 other such facilities across the country. And then anyone who's a grandparent, I think that grandparents understand your family is going on and you want to leave them that legacy. So that's my presentation, and then I will take any questions.
Thank you so much. That was a very informative and very descriptive presentation. Thank you so much for that. It was wow. You really wowed us. Yes, we're gonna open up the question. Rich Buyer. Oh, you're muted.
So my mom, who's no longer with us, was in an assisted living facility here in New York, and I do know the executive director, and I would be more than happy to make an introduction for you.
That would be wonderful.
Wow, that's
Thank you so much. I
amazing.
appreciate that, Rich.
Yeah, wow, that's the beauty of this. Any other questions? Anybody have questions? Okay. My thing is, I think it was just really important with the, I had a question actually. My question was, how do you deal with the photos? Because I know that, especially with the elderly and, seniors, that they are not as tech savvy and they have older photos. Do you just recommend taking the pictures of the photos, scanning photos? How do you get the photos into the videos? That's what,
Often the people that I'm communicating with are the children. The
Oh,
children who want their parents to do it, or a grandchild that wants their grandmother to do it. And so they get the pictures and then they scan it or take a photo of it and email it to me, and then I put it in. And I'll usually at the end of the interview, I'll say, this was a great interview. Here are some photos I'd love to have that I think would make it even better.
Oh, so you like kind of surprise them in a way. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I think having your service is great because yes, you can do this yourself. And thank you so much for sharing how do you do it. And actually wrote some notes out and took some tips down. So it was really thank you for that. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You have to go through the scripts and you have to do that. I know that I don't like doing video editing. I'm not a big fan of video editing. I know how to do it. I do all my video editings, but people don't realize this is a lot of work that goes involved, and especially when you're dealing with it requires a lot of time and patience for this. So and you're very affordable, by the way. So it's for people to do that, because you think by the time you pay for the Zoom, you pay for the Descript, you pay for all these other services, and the time you invest, they should have hired you in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I love.
I agree.
No, because I was just saying it's a lot of work. I'm like, wow, people don't realize editing does take a lot of work, and to do it right and professionally, there's a learning curve for that. So editing is a lot of work. The other thing what I liked about was just asking the questions, the emotions, the stories. I like that. How you are able to capture the emotions and stories of past. We have relatives that say the same stories over and over them. But it'd be nice to capture the stories because it brings in on emotion, so that was very
Exactly. When I did this in person 25 years ago, I did quite a few World War II vets. And so I had one guy who was a small guy. So he was put in a small plane and he was sent over enemy lines to identify where the enemy forces were. I had another guy who was a big guy, and he was in B-2 bombers, and he would talk about how he could drop a bomb on a bridge and he could see the limbs flying from people. And I asked both of them, were you afraid? Did you think that you would never come home? And so you get at that mindset and how mindset impacts people. So the big guy said, never crossed my mind. I wasn't afraid. I knew I would come home and I was fine with it. The smaller guy said, I vomited every time before I got into the plane. I was petrified. I kissed the ground when I got back to the United States. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would today be an 80-year-old grandfather living in Coral Springs, Florida.
Wow. That's wow. Thank you again for this. This was truly amazing, and again, I love the tips and advice. It's almost like you're directing your own movie, and I love the way you do it. You said with the lighting and the sound. Excellent presentation. I think this is probably one of my favorite presentations. It was so important, and you played the video. That was pretty cool, and it worked. So that was really cool. All right, we're gonna go to the next meeting now, which is meeting on Wednesday. So we'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for coming. See you.